actually at least almost 10 heads of state and government are inside the KICC building, probably having a briefing before they could come outside. We've been informed that they will all come outside, and therefore you'll be able to see them standing just right in front of the Kenyatta International Convention Center. And as a sign, this is a symbol that yes, Africa is united and it's ready to move this and shift the conversation about the climate change and crisis to shift the conversation rather from a victim-centered conversation to a solution-giver conversation. And therefore, security, of course, has been beefed up right here at the KICC. What is currently happening inside the KICC, the heads of state and other delegates are having a meeting with President William Ruto, and then they will again come right here in the front before they head to the server room where the official ceremony or inauguration of today. Today is a presidential day, and therefore we do understand that they will be making address, and there will be different sessions happening today in the afternoon. Up to 5 o'clock, actually, the program is busy for the head of state. So some of the issues that are being discussed today, apart from green energy financing, of course, commitments on financing, declarations on the carbon credits, declarations on the alternative use of power that can be used. Yesterday, the president called for a shift from the normal way of functioning, especially, for instance, saying that instead of using things that emit carbon dioxide, then we could shift, for instance, to use of things like biomass. So that is what the president was saying. And so the commitment was that, and of course there were also concerns that why Africa should be at the front line, despite the fact that most of the African countries, or the continent, of course, is the least emitter of the carbon dioxide, which really is the one that causes global warming. But then the agenda is to ensure that Africa is part of the solution and tap into the opportunities that the climate or shifting to climate action is concerned. So right now, the President of the Republic of Congo has also arrived here at this historic African Climate Summit. Is being received here by a delegation led by Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua, and so he becomes, if I'm not wrong, the 11th or the 10th, but more than 10 heads of state right now officially have arrived in the country. So that is what is happening right here. And this morning, it's also important to understand that on Monday evening, rather, the Vice President of Colombia is also in the country because she arrived last evening, and she was again able to be hosted right here by the President and the First Lady. So she's also in the country. So Colombia is also represented in this African Climate Summit. So this shows a commitment from different governments. Remember, even the heads of state that are not here, their countries are represented. We've seen Angola, the Vice President has arrived, and other delegations, more than 300,000 delegates have attended this African Climate Summit. And so these are some of the things that we are looking at. Fatia, before I probably let you go, or before I hand over to you, and at the same time, before we also get to see what time that the delegation will be coming outside, it's important to note that the climate experts that are here, they have different views on what should be done to address the climate crisis in the country. I'll give you an example with what Kenya did. Yesterday, we saw some experts really in support of what President William Ruto did by lifting the ban on logging and saying, it was important to support the timber industry. But others say there was no proper strategy that was put in place to ensure that yes, only the mature and the needed trees are cut, and therefore we've seen claims and cases of deforestation in some of the forests happening. And so that was a concern from the delegates, saying that if the president is leading, then he has to lead by example. But again, the president, I think he'll be flexible, and if he listens and hears what the delegates are saying and the advice, then again, I'm sure he's going to probably revert, because he was the one, again, as vice president in 2018, who was part of the team that imposed the ban on logging. Other issues is, for example, the question on plastic pollution in the country. When you have a look at even the Nairobi River at the city yesterday, it was very interesting to see journalists from other countries filming the Nairobi River and seeing how, for example, contaminated it is. But we've seen the county government saying that they are beginning a cleaning up exercise for the Nairobi River. So a lot is involved when it comes to addressing climate change, and not just in the agricultural sector, but even concerns on, yes, we saw on day one yesterday President William Ruto arriving in an electric car, but from what you've been able to see, the vehicles that are being used here, we can say that they are a recipe of chaos as far as emission of carbon dioxide is concerned. So what will it take to adopt to these new measures that are being proposed here at the summit? And so the community leaders as well, they have also said that, yes, we have the knowledge on what we need to do, but we don't have alternatives. For example, charcoal users saying that, yes, we know charcoal is bad, but what can we use instead? And is it accessible, and what is the cost implication of the alternative measures? So the financing question today is going to be very important. We also had conversations, even the president mentioning yesterday that even tax exemptions, for example, on the clean energy and technology, it's going to be part of the conversation to ensure that the cost of shifting to the green energy is lower than for example, what people are currently using. And even shifting to solar energy, for example, the cost of installation was cited to be very expensive, and so people just opting to use the normal kind of power. So at the end of the day, this is, I think, the most important day for TIA, because when you look at some of the conversations that we are looking forward to is the financing. And yesterday, the president alluded that we don't have to focus on the South versus the North conversation, because that has been the biggest conversation. During COP27, I wouldn't say that there was a clear conclusion or roadmap to how to address the climate question, because the African continent went to Egypt with an agenda that we need finances, and that has never been honored more than 30 or 28 years ago. So the president was reluctant to even comment on the fact that the AU did confess that this money that was promised as a result of loss and damage, that promise and commitment has not been honored. But so today we will be keen to see whether the Africa as a continent is going to push for this money that was committed, or they are going to devise other ways of coming up with financing, because that has been the stalemate. So technology is there, yes, but the financing question has been the greatest fear or problem. Again, as we head towards COP28, they said that this time round, Africa will have a consolidated agenda, even as they go to COP28. Remember, last year there was no such a meeting, and therefore it was just opinions from heads of state and government. So this time round, again, we are going to see some of the declarations, especially what voice is Africa going to take to COP28 in Egypt.
Right, Purity, thank you for that. Of course, a very extensive update there on what's currently happening at the Kenyatta International Convention Center. Of course, it is the day 2 of the Africa Climate Summit. In fact, it is the inaugural Africa Climate Summit being held here in Nairobi. Remember, the theme is driving green growth and climate finance solutions for Africa and the world. So far, we've seen a lot of presidential arrivals almost more than 10 presidents have arrived at that convention center. But for now, though, I want us to talk to another reporter, that is Dennis Aseto, on what's happening there. Dennis, good morning.
Good morning to you, Fatia, and you are coming straight from the epicenter of the Africa Climate Summit right here in Nairobi. That is the Kenyatta International Convention Center. As we continue to take stock of the day today, remember today is the big day. It is the presidential day as different heads of state sit and decide, make arrangements, and just come up with how best to address issues to do with climate change and how best we can be able to win that fight. But that notwithstanding, let me just take you through the presidents that have made their way here. We have the Rwandan president, that is Paul Kagame. Senegalese president and the South Sudan president is Salva Kiir. Tanzania, Samia Suluhu. Also the president of Sharawi has made his way here. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres is in the building as well. We have Ghana, that is Nana Akufo-Addo. Also, Azimio leader Raila Odinga made his way here. We saw him walk through being received by Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua. Also, Governor of Nairobi, Johnson Sakaja, just walked across the street, making his way to
Right, of course, we are going to just get back to Dennis Aseto in just a bit. Of course, he's updating us on the presidents who've arrived there. Just to recap also, the presidents who are there, we've seen the president of Mozambique, Filipe Nyusi, South Sudan President Salva Kiir, Ethiopia's President Sahle Wade Zewde, Tanzania's President Samia Suluhu, Macky Sall, President of Senegal, is also in attendance. We've also seen Sahrawi Republic President, that is Brahim Ghali. Comoros President Azali Assoumani is also in attendance. And of course, we've also seen the special envoy from US, that is John Kerry, in attendance, just coming in. And from here, Kenya, we've seen a Prime Cabinet Secretary, that is Musalia Mudavadi. We've also seen, of course, the Deputy President, that is Rigathi Gachagua. And of course, Nairobi Governor Johnson Sakaja is also in attendance. First Lady and Second Lady Rachel Ruto and Dorcas Rigathi have also arrived. And of course, also from Congo and Angola, basically various presidents and vice presidents from different parts of the continent have arrived to the inaugural Africa Climate Summit that is being held at KICC. Remember, the theme is driving green growth and climate finance solutions for Africa and the world. Today, of course, is day 2, and yesterday, President William Ruto officially opened the summit. The summit, of course, the declared goal of the summit is to influence climate commitments, pledges, and outcomes. And of course, that is supposed to be leading into the Nairobi Declaration that is supposed to be a blueprint for Africa's green energy transition. So, of course, a very important conversation and very timely ahead of the COP28 summit that is supposed to be held in Dubai in November. Key agenda, of course, is climate financing in, of course, in Africa. And of course, part of the climate action, of course, is cutting emissions, adapting to climate impacts, and financing. Remember, the Paris Agreement that was signed on 12th December 2015, of course, is focusing on reducing global emissions, greenhouse gas emissions, of course, to limit also the global temperature in the world, and of course, review the country's commitment every 5 years. And again, of course, like we had said, the climate financing is one important bit that is being discussed in the summit this year here in Nairobi. Now, according to a 2022 UN report, it is estimated that Africa loses about from $7 billion to $15 billion annually because of climate change. And we've seen adverse effects on people. Of course, we've seen the drought situation that has been experienced in the continent after 40 years, of course, in the last few months. And of course, we've also seen the effect when it comes to even wildfires globally, especially in the United States. Of course, this is the biggest conversation in the country at the moment, the Africa Climate Summit that is being held at KICC. Various leaders have arrived. Also, key to note also is Ghanaian President Nana Akufo-Addo is also in the country, and UN Secretary General, that is Antonio Guterres, is also in the country to discuss this important issue. Now, key to also note is that in Africa, in terms of climate change, there is a low contribution to greenhouse gas emissions, but it is noted that it is the most vulnerable continent, and that the temperature increase is above 1.5 degrees Celsius, and of course this is something that needs to be reduced. Now, despite it, of course, having low contribution to the gas emissions, Africa faces a lot when it comes to collateral damage, and of course its economy, the infrastructure investments, water and food systems, and of course that has led to drought being experienced in the continent. Of course, public health has also been a very important issue when it comes to the effect of climate change. Also, just what you're seeing live on your screen right now is various leaders coming in. We've just seen the president of Rwanda, that is Paul Kagame, just walking into the ballroom where the conversation is currently happening. That is, of course, President William Ruto also getting into the conference, of course, where it's happening. We've also seen the IGAD executive director also in attendance. So, of course, various leaders have also attended this conference. You've also seen the President of Tanzania, Samia Suluhu, attending the conference. And, of course, it's just the second day of the Africa Climate Summit, and, of course, the biggest day of this summit where we're seeing a lot of presidential rivals who have attended this conference. Again, key to note, of course, is that the summit's goal is to influence climate commitments, pledges, and outcomes, including the Nairobi Declaration that is set to be the blueprint for Africa's green energy transition.
Let us all rise for the national anthem. We'll have two anthems, starting with the Kenyan national anthem, followed by the AU anthem.
try to dance.
Let's take our seats. Your Excellencies and all distinguished guests, to start us off this morning, we have a Kikwetu production, a fusion of Samburu, Turkana, Borana, and Maasai communities performing with contemporary dancers and acrobats, giving you a taste of the diverse and rich Kenyan culture. Sit back, relax, and enjoy.
Yeah.